Hi everyone, how are you tonight? Have you ever felt like you were just coping with a relationship rather than honoring your personal needs pertaining to the relationship? Did you feel pulled in both directions, rendering you stuck? Did you wonder how to handle it properly? Did you get advice? Was their advice effective? Welcome to the talk show, Real Life Bleep. I'm your host, Kimberly, and I'm a spiritual healer. The reason why I started this show, and tonight is the very first episode, is because when I began my journey in spirituality, and I became more wise from a spiritual perspective, there's a whole mind change that happens there, when truth begins to emerge in your world and become a part of your world. You begin to do things differently. And when you're a victim, as I was, and now a survivor, thank you very much, of the abuses of, childhood SA, extreme narcissistic abuses, civil rights violations out the wazoo, trafficking, the whole nine yards. When you suffer from traumas such as that, your mind has to accept and learn how to reintegrate into society, essentially. And that's a very difficult process. Not a lot of people who you meet on the day-to-day have allowed themselves the opportunity to properly heal from that and properly take the steps towards spirituality. And again, then there's also many people who learn all about spirituality but never reach that place of healing that really releases one from all of the traumatic effects of all of those abuses. And when you're walking in faith, you're walking blind, quite frankly. And it's difficult. But now that as we're walking into the new era of spirituality, I feel that it's time that we begin to work together in helping each other learn how to live our spiritual beliefs so that we may finally bring healing and closure to the old wounds while bringing growth and manifestational capabilities for a sustainable new future based more on spirituality and what we are according to the Most High God. Now, these talk shows, this is the very first one, as I said, these are structured where I could do 2 or 3 questions per talk show. And I'm doing 2 per week on Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be releasing a show. I also have a platform called Club Gig on Locals. That's clubgig.locals.com. And anyone who is a supporter, a gigger, as I call them, a supporter on that platform has the exclusive rights to ask the questions, okay? So as we're starting, and I'm brand new to everything, today's the first show, today's the first time I'm talking about Club Gig. I figured that I would use one of my own life experiences that made me feel torn between whether I stayed within the coping area, like staying within familiarity, just coping, learning how to better cope rather than honor myself, or begin to honor myself. So I thought I'd bring about that question about coping so that I can expand on my own personal situation for the benefit of your education, okay? So for me, I had been married for 9 years, and then after that relationship ended, I got into another relationship, non-married, but that relationship lasted for 11 years. I knew the family, we were really very close, since little kids. And, I felt safe in this relationship. I felt connected. There was a lot of love in that relationship, a lot of good times. It was everything I needed and more at the time that it happened. However, with all of that wonderfulness, there was this underlying something that existed in our relationship. And it made me always question myself, question my value. Why am I feeling this way? And I'm thinking, there's some cheating going on, and then I become, like a detective, and then, a disbeliever, if you will. And then it started catching up to me within my body because I felt it so strongly, but was continuing to learn how to cope with it day to day to day because it was meeting other needs for me, including I was a single parent, So the help and the financial help were paramount to me at the time. And I was believing that I was doing the best thing for my children too, as part of my coping with the situation that I was not entirely happy with. So then there eventually came a time where I was just like, okay, enough is enough, we're really just going to have to tackle this, and I'm going to have to do it. And like, he got really strange. And at the end, he was like, just acting very, I don't know what. So like Tuesday before Christmas, I was down there. I was a caterer at the time, and I was making pancakes for an event. And he comes down in the morning before he goes to work, and it was just so off. And I looked at him. I said, "Are you just waiting for Christmas? And then you're going to leave?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, just go get your bags and go." Now, I tell you, I was only 2 years in at that time, 2 years into my spiritual journey at the time that happened. And I mean, like, brand new, just starting to get into the very initial conversations. So, I had a real hard time getting there. And because of my past, I felt inside of myself how valueless I was, or felt that I was. I felt that, he was a beautiful, handsome man with all of these wonderful things. I felt like less than because I couldn't live up to that. But then over time, what happened is that the repetitive nature of what was happening affected me so greatly that I just had enough. And I chose me and my children once again in my life. And what it was a repetitive, cyclical type of relationship that I was dealing with, which we'll get into with other conversations. But I was experiencing the same type of behaviors with man number 2 as I did with man number 1. So, repetitive cycling, and then I'm in the situation, and, I'm feeling kind of strapped with the situation, feeling torn with the situation, until the time came where I finally had enough and said, enough is enough, goodbye. And when I say goodbye, I mean goodbye. Adios. Still be friends with you. Love to see you and see how you're doing, and hope you're doing well. But, the time for our relationship has gone, and boop, boop, bye, not to be repeated again, which is a healthy aspect. Now, you kind of just saw both sides, going from frail, incompetent, feeling as if I didn't have the value, into the, okay, I've had enough. Now I stand up for myself. But the point is that we don't have to drag ourselves through this time period of coping. You see, our whole world today is structured on learning how to cope better rather than learning how to love ourselves properly. Okay. Now, in this scenario, I did both the old, not healed way, and the new healed way. If I had taken that action for myself much earlier, then I would have experienced a lot less other issues that had developed as a result of that time frame. So within that cycle, I learned what not to do. And that was to not hang on to something that does not resonate within myself, something that makes me feel like I am less than myself, something that does not satisfy every need within myself, reasonable need, because sometimes before we heal, we have unreasonable needs, okay? But the basic needs are being met, at least, okay? I want you to know today that our relationships are meant to do that for us, to help us learn through a cycle so that when we arrive at the end of the cycle, we gain the education that was contained within that cycle. It's like going through school. Say maybe this is, junior high, and we have to learn this lesson before we can progress into a higher state of wisdom, a higher level of joyousness in our next relationship. But so many times, I want to bring up the fact that after the relationship is over, sometimes it doesn't end well. Sometimes both parties don't handle it well and they don't remain friends. Sometimes in that space, we lose sight of the educational value of what we have just experienced. Then we become attacky and accusatory, right? And sometimes it's, justified. And sometimes we have to stand up for ourselves, depending on the severity of the situation. But a lot of times, it's just our unwillingness to accept our personal responsibility of needing to understand what the lesson was to begin with. Once we allow ourselves to realize that we're allowing ourselves to go off track and completely going into this drama scenario rather than a healing and closure scenario, all we need to do is pull ourselves back and say, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to be learning right now? I always learn what I do want, what I don't want, and how to do me better every single time. And if you stick with just those 3 questions to find as part of what you were trying to learn during this educational experience, whether you asked for it or wanted it or not, your ultimate one is the best relationship ever. Well, the Most High knows what you need to learn in order to experience that. So this is a class for that. So you've just completed a relationship class to get you to the relationship of your dreams. What was it that you had to learn? What I do want, what I don't want, and how to do me better are always the 3 things that you learn. Sometimes there's multiple of those within the lesson. And it's important that after we do find or remember the value that we have for ourselves, our self-love, and make the actions that are necessary to correct the situation so that we remain in love with ourselves and honor ourselves and our needs. Well then, that's when you have the ability to onboard that lesson. For each of you to say, you know what, no matter what just happened, I understand that it was my lesson and it was your lesson. And together, we can either learn together and we find that we can stay together, or we learn together and realize that we're not meant to be together. And then make our choices from there. That is a honoring oneself in self-love type of way to handle our emotions. And our relationships are the primary meat and potatoes to the education that God gives us. So rather than coping for an extended period of time, whether it's out of, boredom or feeling like you have to for certain reasons or fear, it's important to remember the love of self and to love yourself first. Because if you don't do what you need to do in order to love yourself first, you cannot love anyone else to your full capacity. And when there's children and families involved, it's very important that we logically and carefully determine our position. Ask ourselves, what did I learn? What do I not want? What do I want? And how can I make myself better within this situation? And with couples and families and relationships, how we're supposed to approach that, because ultimately I did it all wrong, even though it sounded like I did it right. Ultimately, we should be bringing this back to one another and saying, okay, this is what I don't like, and this is what they don't like. And this is what I do like, and that's what they do like. And based on what we don't like and what we do like, can we be honest with each other to say what we would have to do, and are we willing to do that for ourselves and one another? That is the award at the end of a relationship cycle. That is the culmination of all of the educational experiences coming together as they were meant to, because the Most High does nothing that affects only one person, because that's not suitable to an educational experience. Contrast is absolutely necessary for educational value. But when we have that ability to be honest with ourselves and each other and make those decisions together, even if the choice is to break apart, it's done with a certain knowledge that it is the best for all parties involved. And indeed, that will enable you to begin a new cycle, a new chapter in your life. Either way it goes, whether it's a repaired connection or a broken connection, it gives everyone the ability to begin this new cycle, this new stage in life from a higher level spiritual perspective, because they chose to love themselves first. That brought a higher level of energetic value to the situation. It corrected issues from behind that happened within the relationship, and it smooths the path for the forward motion for everyone involved. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. That's all I'm going to talk about for now. I really do look forward to becoming, the person that can help you understand how to just get through it. I'm happy to answer any kind of questions. If I don't have the experience, I'll just say so. And like I said, if you would like to, enter a question, only giggers and super giggers have the ability to leave a question. It's only $5 a month, and you get so much more than just this talk show, Real Life. I also have Breaking Free, which is my life story, which I'm releasing by episode beginning this Saturday, which is the 23rd, excuse me. I also have another talk show called 5D Business. It is what's now. And I've got all kinds of stuff going on. We have a healing event coming up on April 1st at Club Gig. Anyway, please check it out, or at least check out the introduction video that's on YouTube and Rumble. It's on @spiritual_healer Kimberly or Club Gig Forever, either YouTube or Rumble. Well, guys, thanks so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you again real soon. Friday, in fact, at 8 p.m. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye for now.